So I just wanted to finish up the visual abstract and just finish going over that with you all. So here at the bottom, you can just see all of our studies were completed in free living adults. So none of them were hospitalized or in living facilities or anything like that. They were all living on their own independently. All of them had been diagnosed with migraines with aura. So like I stated beforehand, there were some pretty strict inclusion criteria for those with migraines, so they couldn't have just had one migraine with aura or just migraines without aura. It had to be very specific on how many migraines with aura, the specific symptoms they encountered, how often they had them, how long they've been having them, and things like that. Folic acid or folate also had to be a part of the intervention or the treatment. So they had to be either looking at dietary folate or using folic acid supplementation in the studies. So I've just included the entire conclusion here for the review, just so you can see the whole thing, but I'm just going to run through it really quickly. So I kind of concluded from the review that further study is required, just so we can know if folic acid supplementation or dietary folate does have a direct impact on the severity, frequency, or disability of migraines with aura. So not just if it's related, but if it actually does affect, the symptoms encountered by those patients. And then also, just more study is needed to look into the effect of the MTHFR gene dietary intake of folic acid, in migraines with aura, just so we can understand more these factors that tie into the symptoms encountered by the migraineur, as well as just how all of those things work together in their moving parts. So from the studies that I looked at, it appears that a combination of pyridoxine, folic acid, and cobalamin are implicated as a possible treatment of migraine with aura, but not folic acid on its own. So the grade that I applied to this review and to this conclusion is a grade of 2. What contributed most to that was just the differences in the mini studies. So some of them look at supplementation, some of them looked at multiple vitamins, and some looked at dietary folate. So it was just kind of difficult to interpret all of those results all together since they were so different. So that's why it got a grade of 2 and not a grade of 1. So some of the strengths of this review include the blinding and placebo controlling of many of the studies. So most of them the authors did list how they blinded everything and how they went about excluding different patients and things like that, and follow-ups and dropout rates and stuff like that. So most of them were also placebo controlled, so we had a pretty good comparison. Some of them also had non-migraine individuals to look at as well, which was helpful. 3 of the 5 also used the migraine disability assessment tool, so the MIDAS tool, which made it kind of easier to compare them. It standardized it a little bit. Obviously, 2 of the 5 did not use that, but the 3 that did were easier to compare. We also saw the serum values of folic acid, cobalamin, and pyridoxine, as well as homocysteine as well, recorded in 2 of the studies. So that kind of gave us some quantitative values to look at and compare with the migraine symptoms. So that kind of was a strength in that we got to see actual numbers and not just reported symptoms from the patients. Some limitations of this review. So we had some pretty low sample sizes in some of them. Obviously, one of them had only 60 participants overall. Also, one of the largest things was that some of the interventions looked at other vitamins, so vitamin B6 and B12. 2 of them actually supplemented with those, so that made our results harder to interpret in terms of just folate or just folic acid, just because there was a supplementation of all 3 in those, so it kind of made it more difficult to determine if folate actually had an effect on the migraines. We also saw a non-standardization of the migraine symptoms, so only 3 of them used the MIDAS scoring tool. 2 of them used their own tools, so if they had all used the same scoring system, it would have been easier to interpret the results altogether. So here are just some implications for research and practice. Homocysteine and how it relates to migraine is really important. We know there's a relationship, but we don't know the mechanism. Homocysteine, as stated earlier, does have a relationship with other cardiovascular events. Migraine is a neurovascular condition, but it would be interesting to see the actual mechanism for that, how that ties into those events and other conditions, and it may give other ways that it can be prevented or treated. Also homocysteine and how it relates to the MTHFR polymorphism as well as folic acid. So I talked about how that polymorphism makes it to where the body can't remethylate homocysteine, so it kind of increases that. So just kind of the overall relationship between those. And then also just MTHFR and the incidence of migraine. Just kind of tying together the first 2 points, how that polymorphism shows up in the incidence of migraine with aura and migraine without aura in the population. And then finally, just the most efficient dosage of folate. So, in one of the studies, they stated that they felt that 1 milligram was less efficacious than 2 milligrams in a prior study. And then another study used 2 milligrams, and they had positive results that showed a reduction in severity, frequency, and disability of the migraine. So just whichever one of those would be safest, if we need to go up, if we need to go down, and really just if folic acid or folate overall affect migraine when they're supplemented. So just further study into actual supplementation and not dietary folate is recommended. Alrighty, so here are my references here. I'm really grateful to have been able to complete this study. As I've stated before, I actually suffer from migraines with aura, so it was very interesting to look into some treatments for that and some other reasons why people may experience those. I'm really excited to see what your questions are and answer some of those. I'm grateful for any feedback you can give on the review as well as just the presentation in general. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day and a great week.